Let's talk about the importance of being in nature.
Just sitting here.
I know.
See, when we say nature, right, because human beings are part of nature. Sometimes being around human beings
Doesn't feel like it
doesn't
sometimes.
feel great, depending on what's going on, right? So, because we carry a lot of stuff, and the nature of the earth, and the grass, and the trees, and the leaves, and the sky, and the animals, the birds, and this time of the year, especially with all the rabbits and squirrels and chipmunks running around, they don't have all this stuff. You know, they're not competing for a bigger home. They're just doing what they need to do. It's important because nature holds within it, okay, just the earth itself holds within it that natural state of being. Okay, it has a natural state of just being. It's just doing what is necessary. The tree is just becoming a tree. It's not trying to become the greatest tree. It's just becoming a tree. And so it just has this natural movement to it, has the natural the existence of the tree, right, doesn't look for anything. Human beings are looking for something. If you sit with a tree, right, it will, the information coming from that tree through the energy of the tree will have an effect on you. If you sit with it, if you sit with nature or be in nature, it has an effect on you. I go hiking in the White Mountains. I've gone camping up there, and it's so interesting to me that anytime I'm in the White Mountains, no matter who I meet, there's no stress, there's no anxiety, everyone is joyful, everyone's happy, they want to be there, their whole demeanor is different. Now, I know people that I've gone on hiking with, and when they're back at work, that's not the same person. They think it's because they're getting away from the busyness, and that's why, you know, getting out into nature is getting away from the busyness, so that's what makes them feel good. It isn't. It's actually the nature itself. It's the energy from the nature that makes them feel good. Because something about that resonates in here, right? Because that's here too. So when that resonates with you, it feels good. It's not the getting away from, it's just the feeling good of being in it, you know, and sitting with it.
Well, I know since we've been sitting out here for the last hour or so, it's just been completely calming, soothing. Like I feel completely present. I think I could stay here for a very long time.
You see, if you're, right now, if you think about it, you know, we're surrounded by beautiful place here. Right? If someone came here, a human being came in here that was angry, don't you think that would change things?
Absolutely.
Right. So it is being around the nature of this is why your nature just becomes natural. Right? It just tunes into it. And so that's why it's so important to be around it, because it helps you remind you that this is here too. Feeling like this is within you. Because, like I said, nature doesn't get angry at you. You know, the tree's not angry at us. It's just here. It's providing shade. Right?
I like what you said. A tree is just being a tree. It's not trying to be the best tree in the forest. And I've heard recently animals in nature aren't worried about where their next meal comes from. They're just out there getting their next meal. The robin doesn't stress about finding its worm. It's just finding its worm. So I like being able to remember that we can just be, but how do we do that really? How can I just be a human being being a human being without stress?
Well, we have
these brains and these minds.
that's the thing. I mean, we have so much more ability.
Yes.
Right? And then look at what we do with it.
Create stress.
We create stress. Well, we create it, right? You know, this isn't anyone else doing it. We're doing it. How do we tune into that to ourselves? That's why I say it's so important to get out into nature, because the more you spend time around nature, around mountains, around, you know, the ocean and bodies of water, you start to feel that more. You start to connect to that more because the feeling of the energy is there. So that's why it's important to be around it. If you devoid yourself of that, you're shutting down that part of yourself that can tune to that. Because what's growing inside that tree, right? The life that's in that tree is in you, right? The tree isn't spoiling it. We're spoiling it by adding all kinds of stuff to the mix. If we just left it alone, it's fine. But we're adding so much to it. And I know, actually, I'll tell you one thing that was upsetting. I was up in the White Mountains one time. We went to a place called it's called Carter Notch, and there's a hut up there in the White Mountains in New Hampshire. And there are a couple of ponds up there. They're just these beautiful ponds surrounded by the mountains, and they're way up high in the mountains, and they're just pristine, And so I'm sitting on a rock, and I'm just sitting in front of this body of water on this rock, and I'm just sitting there meditating, just tuning into this beautiful place. And I see this couple, and they walk down, to the edge of the water, and they take out their fishing poles. And they start to cast into the pond. And I'm thinking, the fish up here, they're up here in the White Mountains, and they can't even escape it. They just want to be like you or me, enjoying this.
Happy and free.
And they can't even do that because the human beings are coming up to cause them a little pain and suffering. Not because, you see, if it was for survival, it's one thing. If you're catching a fish for survival, it's one thing. But if you're catching it for your own pleasure, all you're doing is causing some pain and suffering to a fish that's just here to enjoy the pond and live its life. And we're up here doing this. And what they don't realize, because if you think about it this way, if you ask that person casting out, right? You ask them, is this enjoyable for you? They say, oh, I love this. This is very peaceful for me. Why? Because they're casting all their troubles out there to the fish. Right? All their stuff is now cast out to the fish, and they put it on the fish. Because if I catch the fish, I feel good. Right? So taking all their troubles, and now the fish has their suffering. Why are we doing this?
It's like a scapegoat. That's what they used to do in ancient cultures. Put all of their troubles on a goat and banish the goat. Scapegoat.
Goat's gone. All my stuff is gone.
Interesting.
I wrote a parable actually about a town. There was a little village, and they had a statue of a Buddha, and the town everyone was happy in the town. And this traveler came to the town, and he was depressed. He was down on his luck, and he's coming and he's dressed, in all these rags, and he comes into the town, and he sees everybody's happy, and they come running over to him. They say, "Oh my goodness, what's wrong with you? We're so happy here. Why?" And he said, "Why are you all so happy?" He said, "Oh, we have a Buddha. We have a statue of a Buddha." He said, "That makes you happy?" He said, "They said, no, we give all our troubles to the statue. The statue takes all our troubles, and we're happy." And they said, "Come on, we're going to show you. You go up there and you give your troubles to the Buddha, and it'll be fine." So they let him go up there, and they leave him alone. But he doesn't come back. And they're like, "Why is he taking so long?" And they go up, and he's gone. And so is the statue. So they take the statue's gone, the guy's gone, and now the town is miserable. Because they have no more statue to give all their troubles to, so now they're miserable. A few years go by, another traveler comes to town. This guy, he's rich. He's, dressed in beautiful robes. He's happy. He comes to town. The people are depressed. They don't even want to pay attention to this guy. He comes up and he says, why? Some person comes up to him, "Why are you so happy?" He said, "What do you mean, why am I so happy?" And they said, "Do you have a Buddha statue?" And he's like, "What do you mean I have a Buddha statue?" "No, I don't have a Buddha statue. I'm just happy." And so the townspeople come out. They're like, "This guy's just happy, And they told him the story about how some guy came years ago, took the statue. So they brought him up to the place where the statue was. And this guy sits down on the stone where the statue was, and the people are like, "Who the heck is this guy here sitting on the stone where the statue was?" And so he started asking them the question, "What did you guys?" "Well, we gave all the troubles to the statue, and in the end they realized, this is the guy who stole the statue.
Oh, no way.
He's the guy who stole and he asked them, what made you think that if you gave your troubles to the statue, that your troubles would be gone? They said, well, we believed the statue would take them from us. And he said, really? A piece of wood is going to take your trouble? And they started questioning it, and they said, he asked, where's the Buddha? And somebody said, somebody stole him. He said, no, where is the Buddha? And this young girl stood up and said, the Buddha is within. Right? And so the townspeople were like, oh, the Buddha is within. So they said, well, where do you give your troubles to then if the Buddha is within? And they said, well, the suffering isn't even here. Right? It's not within at all. So they started to realize that their idea of giving all their suffering to the Buddha was just a way to escape. Is to give their suffering. The suffering never left, right? It was just a way to put it onto something. And this is what we do with our lives. We're always putting it onto somebody else. It's your fault. This happened because of you. I have to, it's not me. And we're always trying to give away all this. And it's not necessary to do that, because the suffering is created by you. So if you created it, you can get rid of it. You don't need anything to give it to.
No scapegoats.
No scapegoats.
Yeah.
No scapegoats. But this is what we're doing.
Thank you.
You're welcome.